It's Steve the guardrail guy, and it's a brisk. I'm gonna put my hat or my hoodie up. It's Steve the guardrail guy. I'm just practicing for. I intend to walk across the state of Tennessee from my daughter's crash site to the location in, the Capitol Hill in Nashville. But you can see here that we're at the trailing end of a guardrail. I'm on US 321 in Loudoun County, Tennessee, just prepping for a walk that I intend to walk from my daughter's crash site where my daughter was killed to the governor's office in Nashville, because we have for too long with TDOT accepted that we're not following our design drawings, we're not monitoring any kind of performance, we are installing virtually everything wrong. So I was out at Hannah's crash site the other day, and there were 6 guardrail ends, one on either side of the bridge. She hit one of them, and then 4 above it, and all 6 are either damaged or improperly installed. So what I'm pushing for is to walk from Hannah's crash site about 200 miles, and I've already talked to the governor and lieutenant governor about my plans, but to Capitol Hill and walk up to the governor's office. They have an open door, and present the hundreds, it will be thousands of guardrail issues to the governor's office, hopefully the governor himself. But I don't want to just walk across the state of Tennessee. And this is not what I'm doing today. I'm just building up my endurance more, because I need to be able to walk about 10 to 20 miles per day. But the goal is to get them to commit to annual training, get them to commit to biannual inspections, and then also, besides those inspections every 2 years, investing in LiDAR scanning, and also, thanks for following, get the state, that sign right there is installed wrong. That tip up there should be 4 feet from the edge of that guardrail, and you can see it's almost touching it. The post should be way out here. We just simply don't follow any of our design drawings, and I'm working on a study. I'm in the woods. I'd love to be. I get distracted super easily. On the morning that we heard that Hannah was in a crash, and then it was serious, I was in all camo. I had a crossbow. I can still smell the coffee, and I'd much rather be in the woods. I'd much rather be ignorant of what I know, but I do know it, so I have a responsibility to act on it. But anyways, it's Steve the guardrail guy. Really foggy morning, US 321. That sign is installed the wrong way, because that is more than 4 feet there. Oh my. Well, they get A for creativity. These driveway cuts, one thing, they've not been hit. You gotta, I don't know, they're installed properly, but driveway cuts are really, really dangerous. They do little to protect from the hazard, and they're just a problem. But anyways, Steve the guardrail guy, just out for a morning walk. Hope to walk about 6 to 8 miles today. I'm hoping in early November to begin walking from my daughter's crash site. Bearing plate is too high, or twisted sideways. Anyways, walk from Hannah's crash site to the governor's office in Nashville, and really push for some serious change. One would be training. So there was a company that offered free training to Tennessee, and Tennessee took them up on it. That's about 3 inches too high. But they took them up on that offer, but only after about 5 people had signed up, and I absolutely lost it. And This is the problem with TDOT. They almost always respond, but it's only after I threw a fit. Bearing plate sideways, that's about 4 inches too high. They do little to no training on, they have done no significant formal training. They've done little trainings here and there, but nothing like what happened in 2017 since. So most of the people, that's bolted to the rail. That's completely wrong. So I want to push for annual training, continuous, ongoing, online training for our inspectors, for our DOT contractors. We want to push for, like I said, regular monitoring of guardrails by walking, similar to what I'm doing, where you're checking the bolts, making sure they're tight, and working on professionalizing our guardrail training program. I want to work with the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. These are our trade schools, to develop a certification program so that our guardrail installers, one, are going to get paid better, but two, they're going to understand why they're doing it. We're not going to turn them into professional engineers. We are going to teach them why they do what they do. So here we have a unit that's been tapped, slightly damaged. This is the Trinity ET Plus. Very controversial. It's been implicated in a ton of deaths. But I'm going to keep walking because I want to get in about at least 8 miles today. Try to read your comments as I'm going. Thank you. Be cautious. I got my high vis on, but it's foggy this morning. I switched over walking against traffic so I could walk off the side of the road a bit and at least see people coming at me. I can't tell you how many times I've been 10 to 12 feet off the road and almost still got hit. It's crazy. But my socks are already wet because I'm walking in the grass on this side of the road. But anyways, about my walk that I intend to walk from my daughter's crash site, really, I don't want to I'm not here to create content. I'm here to create change in the real world. I love when people join. I love when people watch my videos. I mean, I get the same dopamine spike that the Jack Doherty gets from acting like a jackass. But my main goal is to get stuff fixed. And one thing is, a lot of people are hesitant. It's easy. If you want to track me down and call or text, preferably text, I've made it easy for people to do that. And there's a lot of people who have reached out. I've got 2 of those calls this week. Usually starts off, is this? And I know what's coming next. It usually means, next words will usually be, my daughter was decapitated in a guardrail crash, or my grandson was cut in half, or I lost both my legs. So you go from having a really normal day to, oh gosh, what do you say to somebody who tells you that somebody they love was just cut in half? Because there's nothing really good to say. Let's read this. Yeah, it was the governor's daughter. Yeah, they are fortunate sons. We have a lot of. So I'm gonna get a little political. I will fully admit I've got 10 children, 6 of them adopted. I'll tell you Nikki's story. My youngest is 7 now, but I believe in the value of life, and I've lived what I believe. And right before Hannah's crash, she came to us and said, "You need to offer to adopt this baby." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't. Oh no, I don't. I don't need a baby at 42. I don't need a baby." My wife is 42 too. And we're like, no. but I believe in the value of life. And we have a lot of, Tennessee went red to the roots and rotten to the core. And I believe in life, whether it's life on the side of the road or life in the womb. But, we adopted a baby. We believe in this. Our governor and our state legislature, they say they believe in that. But let's just be candid. They want that. They value the money more than they value life. They value being able to take care of their problems with their daughters and their mistresses. They'll be talking about, you should go to one of these state legislators. The Lord, what he's doing in my life. I think, man, they're lucky they aren't struck dead. I go to church. I believe in God. But they make me sick. Don't take that as an endorsement as the other side, because I don't like them either. But anyways, Tennessee is red to the roots and rotten to the core. I enjoy guardrail, actually. Yeah. There's a lot of science behind it and a lot of physics and that part I enjoy. I don't enjoy the corruption. So I don't enjoy the fact that so many people are killed. And a lot of those people, I don't know how to tell. I'm really good at telling the story about all the bad installations and the guardrail damage. But there's a number of people that get let off the hook. Well, first of all, the politicians that I was just grumbling about, they talk about wanting safe roads, but they often don't fully capitalize the projects that would make the most difference. All right, there goes a Rivian. I'm distracted. Lots of press related to the Rivian and Tesla guardrail crash testing. I get tagged in that all the time. Have you seen this? Yes, I saw it. The reason that's public is because of me. Eventually it would have come out. That's too high. That's come out of the ground. That ending. That tree should be cut. That tree should be cut. But anyways, let's go back to the Tesla and Rivian. The Rivian just passed us. Electric vehicles and guardrail do not perform well together. And it's not recent story. That's provided back on CBS News. Really highlighted the weight of the EVs, but the weight of the EVs and guardrail is not the most pressing issue. It's significant, but we have a lot of vehicles that are EV or that not EVs that weigh more than the electric vehicles, and they do perform well with WB and guardrail. The issue is multifaceted. It's the weight. It's the where the battery pack is located so low to the ground. So it's the way the vehicle is manufactured. But that rigid battery pack too, that is a problem. And then there is some consideration with the Rivian crash test that failed. You can watch this on NBC National. I did a story with them. But the wheel of the car can slice the guardrail and lead to that rail rupture. When you open Pandora's box, let me tell you how the Tesla and Rivian guardrail crash test failures got into the public arena. What happened is these were two crash tests run at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln at the Midwest Research Safety Facility, and they failed. And you can watch the videos on NBC, CBS. They were all over the world. It failed. The Tesla went under the rail. The Rivian it went right through it. It was on its way to Canada by the time it stopped. But anyways, but everyone's like, man, this is really bad. And they keep meeting about it for months, saying this is really bad. We're going to have to get this in the public arena. But I had seen it, and I was like, this is a international news story. Elon Musk is going to know about this. Secretary Buttigieg needs to know about this. U.S. senators and congressmen need to know about this. But everyone's just talking about it. And they're like, this is bad. We got to get this. What are we going to do? And they just keep talking about it. And what happened is my YouTube channel has grown to where it had, at the time, over 200,000 subscribers. I reach out to the Transportation Research Board, which is a part of the National Science Foundation. And what I did was, I said, I meet your criteria for a press pass. I want to cover this event as news media. And they started looking, and I met all their criteria. And what I was able to do was get credentialed as news media, go to Washington, D.C., go into this event. Professor Dr. Bob Eilenberg at the University of Nebraska stood up, started presenting this thing. I put my smartphone up. I had the big, I forget what affiliate they are, but a big TV station in Atlanta was live streaming it, recording. I was recording it in person, and I recorded the crash testing, and we got to the end of the crash testing, and everyone in the guardrail industry is the get-along gang, and I'm the guy that stands up in a canoe and rocks it back and forth. So they said, do you have any questions? I said, yeah, I just recorded this. I'm going to be releasing it on my YouTube channel. Are you prepared to release this crash testing to the United States Congress, Transportation and Infrastructure, and Congressman Tim Burchett? He's my congressman. He's on the T&I committee. And he said, we haven't discussed that. And I said, well, the cat's out of the bag. It's public. And so I broke it on YouTube here. And then it was that evening, it was broke in Atlanta. And then a story with, I think, Channel 12, which is a Tegna affiliate in Phoenix. And it kicked around the country for about 7-8 days. And I was like, when is this going to catch fire? And then the AP picked it up. And then CBS Market Watch picked it up. And then it was all over the world. Some of those EV versus guardrail stories have gotten really sensationalized. But when you open that story up, I got to open that story. I got to break that story. But I don't get to control the narrative. But what I was able to do was elevate that discussion. I was meeting with, in DC, I got credentialed for another press event. I was talking with, I'm going to screw up his name, Carlos Manja, but he's the undersecretary. He's two positions below Secretary Buttigieg. He had seen the story. Jen Homendy, who is the chair of NTSB, she's been speaking out on guardrail issues, and they actually took one of their first guardrail primary, first harmful event kind of thing was the guardrail crash. Went to a crash test with a senator from Nebraska, attended a crash test with an EV at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. So by breaking that story here on YouTube, I've been able to elevate that discussion to U.S. senators, the Secretary of Transportation, the NTSB chair, and it's been shared worldwide. But some of the more recent stories involving EVs and guardrails have, no, I'm not sorry about the pun. That's about 4 inches too high. They've gone off the rails. They've gotten a little sensational, some of these EV versus guardrail stories. But it's elevated the discussion, and that's really what my goal was. So, well, thank you for that like. I appreciate that. Prayers for you and your daughter. Thank you. Don't ever apologize for asking me a question. You're never going to make it more difficult. Yes, my daughter was killed in a guardrail crash, and that was where I got distracted at telling you about the EV story. If you are ever in a guardrail crash or know somebody who has, reach out to me. One of the most rewarding things, now the families can't disclose what happened, but when a family calls me, and this happened dozens of times, where I was able to provide them information, and 3, 4, 5 years later, a settlement is reached that provides them resources and a level of closure. A 7 or 8 figure settlement where somebody is acknowledging we wronged you. You don't get those where they're like, oh, here's some money, go away. No, that when they're writing a check for 7 figures, they're admitting they did wrong, and sometimes that's the only justice some of these families are ever going to get. And so by allowing me, and I don't get anything out of those, but allowing me to share information and point you in a direction to obtain justice. There's a little girl up in New England. I don't want to get too specific because I don't want to violate a confidence. But her mom was young, in her 20s. She was killed in the front seat. The child was in the back seat, orphaned. And I'm an orphan advocate. I have 6 adopted children. I've been in 25 Eastern European orphanages. And so my heart lies with the orphan also. And I can't do anything to bring that young girl's mother back. But by providing that information, I can secure that child's future financially so that she has access to counseling. When she grows up, she'll be able to go to university. She'll have safe housing and lodging. And there's so much I can't do, but by providing this information, so if you ever are in one of these crashes, track me down. Or somebody you love is in one of these crashes, track me down. I'll point you to an attorney. Again, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't care who you hire, but I'll help you. And when you obtain justice 3, 4, 5 years later, you don't tell me what you got, because that would be a violation. Say it's come to a satisfactory conclusion, or the case is, tell me where the docket is. I can find it myself. That is such a reward to know that I made a difference. And that's happened many, many times. So if you ever have somebody you love that's been hurt in a guardrail or a barrier crash, reach out, because there are way too many cases that are actionable where there was a tort done and they're not prosecuted. And when they're not held accountable, the bad actors continue to act bad. So don't let them get away with mutilating or maiming you or somebody you love. Because silence. This is from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a Presbyterian minister in Germany. He attempted to assassinate Hitler. And he ultimately was paid with the death penalty. But he said, silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. God will not hold us faultless. So if you've been harmed by one of these big guardrail companies, or a state DOT, or a bad contractor, or an auto manufacturer, don't stand in compliance, in silence. Be defiant and hold these bastards accountable. Because you should see some of the emails that some of these companies, I had one company, their policy, they teach it, is if that guardrail doesn't jump out in the road and get you, it's not on us. We'll do our best to get it right, but it's not on us, and that's not acceptable. Emails that talk about what liability will be when somebody's killed or maimed, and they just dismiss it away for a $2 or $3 change. I've seen guardrails disappear. I wasn't a conspiracy theorist. I have a friend, he's like, Steve, they're all devils. And it's hilarious because he really talks like that. They're all devils. And I'm like, yeah, you're paranoid. I gotta tell you something, they're all devils. They really are. I have seen guardrails disappear hours after the crash. I have seen, and this is all on public court docket testimony. I know quite well this situation. Young girl was killed in a guardrail crash in a rural community on the left side of the road on a divided high-speed interstate, and died early in the morning. The company is based on the West Coast, and without DOT or state highway patrol permission, that company had a salesman from the East Coast in this crash site, different state, talking with the CEO of the company by 12 p.m. Or within 12 hours, while that person was dead on a slab. They already had somebody in there. I've seen cars with criminal holds. One in Maryland, a United States Marine killed in uniform. Criminal hold, MSP, disappears. It's crushed. It's put on a freighter and on its way to India to be melted down before anyone even caught it. Car with a civil hold in Missouri just disappears. Car in Augusta, California, guy's decapitated, and the car is just disappearing out of thin air. So don't underestimate the mendacity and the cruelty and the vileness of some of these corporations, where they can make parts disappear. I've seen the emails where they say, go to this crash site, look for bolts. And I didn't believe in that kind of stuff before I started my advocacy work involving guardrail. But that's why I think anytime we get a chance to file litigation against one of these big companies, you have to take it. And not every case is actionable, but there's about 1,000 fatal guardrail crashes per year, and about 25,000 K level, or that's those K crashes, but A crashes, critical injury or serious injury crashes, where somebody is seriously wounded in a guardrail crash. So about 26,000 potential cases, and a fraction of those are going to have a tort or a negligent act or a grossly negligent act that was causative to the outcome. But if every single one of those cases was prosecuted, the translation would be to the roadside, a better and safer roadside. So in Georgia, there was a guardrail that was hit, performed very well, great job, and a report was issued, hey, we need to get this fixed. It wasn't fixed. I think it was day 89. The guardrail was hit under identical situations. They passed beyond the guardrail, hit a fixed post, and it kind of pressed into the car, killed one person, maimed another, and they knew they had been ignoring this repair. They just didn't make it. And but for that action, these two people one would be alive, one would have a normal life, and they were dead. And there were some really horrible emails where they just basically they knew what they had done. They knew it could kill somebody. We got hit with a $41 million settlement because they knew if they went to trial, they were looking at probably a potential for a nuclear verdict, $500 million to $1 billion worth of punitive damages settled. And you want to bet in the state of Georgia, these guardrail contractors and these PBMCs, performance-based maintenance contractors, they all know about Butler's win and that $41 million. That changes the behavior. So I wasn't always a fan of big litigation, but big litigation one, it holds bad actors accountable, but it changes their behaviors, because a lot of these companies, they're just doing cost benefit. And if it's more beneficial to kill you, they don't have a problem with that. They don't. Let me flip this around, because I want to, that cable barrier. So that takes me to another story. I trade information with some reliable people, and then I get a lot of information from folks I say are liars, crooks, and horse thieves. So you got to sort it out and see what's true and what's not. But I'm hearing there's a lot of smoke to this rumor, and it's related to cable barrier. I'm a big fan of it because it does prevent crossover crashes. It is extraordinarily deadly for motorcyclists, but the net offset in deaths is unreal. But insurance carriers reportedly hate cable barrier because when it's hit, it is leading to massive 5- and 6-figure repair bills. So they are, what I am hearing, and I'd love to get more information. Maybe you're involved in the insurance industry, the cable industry, maybe you're a legislative aide in a state or provincial DOT, and you're seeing these lobbyists come in. The reports are that the insurance industry is fighting to have cable barriers in the median removed because the costs of repair are expensive, and it's cheaper for them to have you cross over, hit this truck head on, and die than to pay for the repairs on all of the cable barrier hits. That's how diabolical. And the details I got from my source were so specific that I do believe there is movement to undermine center median barrier cable because of this issue with the cost of repair. And the insurance industry just doesn't, they prioritize their bottom line more than they prioritize the safety of the traveling public. It's all about the Benjamins. Who sang that? Probably shouldn't say that. That's probably Denny or Daddy or whatever his name was. Yes. He hasn't Epsteined himself yet. Anyways, I want to tell you a story about cable barrier. And it's applicable to no matter what job you do. If your task today would one day be called on to save the President of the United States. And I'm not talking about red or blue, but I'm saying if your actions today would one day be called on to save the President, would he or she survive given the quality of your work? And so there was a crash in Opelika, Alabama. It was back in 2018 or 2019. There had been about 30 people killed in tornadoes. And much like we've seen in recently in East Tennessee here, Western North Carolina, the president shows up, and his role as commander-in-chief is to be consoler-in-chief. And the president was headed north. So he was coming this way. I'm not on that road. That was I-65. And of course, if the president is traveling your roadway, everyone's watching. So there were people all along the roadside recording at various locations. This is a very rural area. But there was a vehicle coming this way, south, on 65, and he was rubbernecking, and he went directly into the cable barrier as the president was approaching. And I've got the video. The Secret Service denied my FOIA request due to national security reasons, but I was able to get a little information out of my FOIA request to the federal or United States Secret Service. But it captured the vehicle. This was a crash in Opelika, prevented about 150 mile an hour's worth of kinetic energy crash with the president of the United States. And you say, well, I don't like that president. Well, How would you like the scrutiny? What I'm talking about is if your job, if your actions today would one day be called on to save the president, would he survive? Or would you be getting scrutinized years later for doing shoddy work? And so I guarantee you, no guardrail contractor in rural Opelika, Alabama thought when he was tensioning these cables, thought he was going to one day save the president, but he did. So that's why I love telling that story, especially to contractors, because they think, well, my job isn't important. I'm in Nowhereville. No, your job could save the president of the United States. So I'm going to read some of these. Why are you walking on the side of the road? I am getting ready. I'm practicing. To quote Allen Iverson, it's not the game, it's practice. We're just talking about practice. Anyways, I'm walking on the side of the road because I intend to walk from where my daughter was killed in rural McMinn County, Tennessee, to the governor's office in Nashville, Tennessee. It's about a 200-mile walk. It's going to start in about 2 to 3 weeks. And I intend to document every guardrail installation failure that I find, every deviation from their design drawings. When I find splice bolts that are not properly spliced, when I find transition panels that have been field drilled, I'm going to document those. And the numbers are going to be so overwhelming. I'm sure it's going to get at least state level media coverage. I've had a national reporter already express interest. I intend to live stream a lot of it. But not just to embarrass Tennessee DOT, but to get Tennessee DOT to begin doing regular training, plus following their design drawings, regular walking inspections on a biannual basis, but also embracing new technology like computer vision modeling, computer vision imagery, and LiDAR scanning with machine learning algorithms that will start picking up this damage so that our guys can drive these roads at 65 miles an hour. And using technology, we can identify the problems, get them fixed. We don't even, guys, I'm telling you, if they will follow my guidance, they love to watch cat videos, drink coffee, and just wait for retirement. You're going to be able to do that a whole lot more. Like here, we have a sign that's too close to the guardrail. LiDAR, once we've taught the system, it's going to pick up on this sign being too close. The system could automatically generate the work order, integrate with, automatically notify 811, which is call before you dig in Tennessee, and you won't have to do a dang thing. You can watch more cat videos. They'll create the work order, they'll move it to where it's actually supposed to be so it complies with the design drawings, and then we'll have a much safer system. So we've had 200 people killed in the state of Tennessee in the last 15 years where the first harmful event was an interaction with a sign. I don't go to causation, I'm just telling you about 80% of our signs in the state of Tennessee are installed wrong. So if we can get them, I don't know if our design drawings and our guardrails even work because we don't install them right. So that's what I'm pushing, is for some legislative and executive action in the state of Tennessee to require Tennessee DOT to inspect their guardrails, train on installing their guardrails, that they study the performance of their guardrails, and that they actually follow their design standards. So here again, another sign. Oh, we got a big deer that kind of smells dead here, but that sign is installed wrong. I'll tell you what, a little spike. He's a big spike, but a spike deer. Anyways, my goal is to, that was a big deer for Tennessee, still a spike, but anyways, my goal is to press DOT to get better, change our culture so that we're actually making these incremental daily improvements. I'd like to be able to get our vest-mounted cameras so that we're documenting every install. Cameras make folks honest. They do. They make people a lot more honest. So here we have a Trinity ET Plus. The bearing plate is oriented properly, but that is a very controversial system. It's been implicated in a ton of deaths, a bunch of different problems with it. This exit gate is a big one. The length of this window, you'll see that the newer systems, that chute comes to about right here, and the reason is when this hits on the passenger headlight, and at the end of the event, this kind of kinks, leaving exposed end, but there's still kinetic energy. This goes in, this right here, goes into the opposite headlight, so it kind of fulcrums, and that kinked rail goes into the headlight, and if it doesn't hit the engine or anything, it goes right into the passenger compartment. That's just one of the defects with that, but my goal today, while I'm on the side of the road, is I'm just trying to build up my endurance for this 200-mile walk. I do a lot of walking, but I'm trying to walk 8 to 10 miles per day so that when I walk 200 miles continuously from Mint County, Tennessee to Capitol Hill in Nashville, that I can make it. Because if I do that, goodness, there's going to be a lot of local media and national media watching. I got to get my big butt to Nashville. I'm ready, fire, aim. And it's gotten me in a lot of trouble over the years, but it's also gotten me a lot accomplished. About $1 billion worth of guardrails and replaced and repaired, federal law done, lots of regulations changed, lots of state laws changed. But I often talk before I think about the consequences of what I just said. But what that does is it forces my hand to actually go through with what I said I was going to do. So that's why I'm out on the roadside today. Prayers, thank you. Yes, pray that I stay safe. I've got a bunch of kids. Guardrail is horrific for bike slips. I monitor all of the guardrail crashes that occur on a daily basis. Mostly I get the United States, Canada, and Brazil is where I'm monitoring, those 3 countries. Although I do catch some stuff in Europe and India, but mostly those 3 countries. And yesterday, there were probably 5 to 6 motorcycle crashes involving W-beam guardrails, all fatal, all across the United States from Winnipeg to Myrtle Beach. And any guardrail crash that involves a post and beam barrier, and that's cable or W-beam or Thri-beam, the interaction with the post is extraordinarily deadly for motorcyclists. And we've known about this. They account for about 1/3 of all the deaths. They're about 3% of all the vehicle fleet. But motorcyclists, most guardrail crashes that have a cause, every guardrail crash has a cause, but a lot of guardrail crashes occur on snowy days or rainy days when bikes are not riding. In half the United States, motorcyclists don't ride, and in Canada, half the year. So you have 3% of the vehicle fleet, 3, accounting for 33% of the deaths, but they don't ride half the year, and they don't ride on the days most likely to produce a slip and slide kind of guardrail crash. So here we have a motorcyclist. You've seen how many, 2 of them. How many other vehicles had passed us, and we had 2 motorcyclists. But they account for 1/3 of all the fatalities. And I've heard, I had a meeting with the executive director of the Federal Highway Administration and the administrator of safety, one of the most obnoxious people I've ever met. That sign's wrong. That sign's wrong, and it's of no value. It's facing the deer out in this field. What does the sign say? Yep, it's installed the wrong way. Anyways, oh yeah, Beth. Oh, one of the worst government bureaucrats I've ever dealt with. Completely obnoxious. Every single time. Well, Steve, I'm the highest ranking safety officer in the United States of America when it comes to federal highways. And we're talking about motorcyclists. And they're like, well, he was on a motorcycle. Like, he had it coming. And we're not going to do anything to study those problems. You know, with that kind of attitude, we wouldn't have put a man on the moon. We wouldn't have invented penicillin. Because, well, they got a bacterial infection. We don't do anything. We would have never caught Starship. Impossible problems can be solved, but not with leaders like Beth. I'm not going to mention her last name. Just pathetic leaders who don't think it can happen or don't care. And I don't ride a motorcyclist. You see that? I secured my motorcycle riding out in the desert on a motorcycle with no name in Arizona. I rode into a barbed wire fence and a cactus, and everything is sharp in Arizona except the don't say that, Steve. That was not nice. Everything is sharp in Arizona, and that's the last time I rode a motorcycle. But just because I don't want to ride one doesn't mean I believe all motorcyclists should die in post and being guardrail kind of crashes. Anyways, yes, guardrails are deadly. I should have been in prison for 40 years instead. There's a bunch of these folks that deserve to be in prison. I'm not going to mention names. You're one bad mama jama. There's some folks. I've had one guy said, there's a lot of people in the guardrail industry, Steve, that like you. There's a lot of people in the guardrail industry that think you're telling the truth. There's a lot of people in the industry that would like to see you go away for a very long time, and they don't care how it happens. I've been threatened with civil, criminal contempt. I've had my life threatened. Actually, some very specific threats. Most of them are just blowhards. Anyways. There was a penny on the ground. You should have told me sooner. I would have picked it up. I should come to Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is a good state. If you are ever harmed by a guardrail in Pennsylvania, I'm telling you, contact an attorney, because the Kagi decision, Kagi versus Commonwealth, I'm going to show you a couple things on this one, but I'm going to tell you about Kagi. Kagi was injured in a guardrail crash, and when it got to the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, guardrail is often called guide rail, but I will note that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, Brian, I'd love it if you walked with me a while, but the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania said if Pennsylvania places a guardrail, so there's no duty, and I believe this too, there's no duty to provide a guardrail for the traveling public. However, if you do install a guardrail, it should be properly installed. That was what the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania, they said you don't have to put a guardrail there, but if it does, it needs to be crash worthy. So this opened PennDOT up to all kinds of litigation. So if you're in Pennsylvania and you're harmed with a guardrail, contact an attorney. I mean, Elizabeth, I forget what her name is, but there's not much good in Philadelphia, but there's some really good guardrail attorneys. But Richie Sullivan up in Massachusetts is a good one. He can prosecute in Pennsylvania. Teresa Monroe, C. Lawrence is one in Texas. There's THP going by. Oh goodness, who else? Langdon and Emerson. Kent Emerson is an incredible trial attorney with guardrail. But anyways, up in Pennsylvania, Kagi versus Commonwealth open. It removes sovereign immunity limits, so the state is fully responsible for the crash. And what it did, why I liked Kagi, and this is another reason why I'm a huge fan of civil litigation, is it has prompted probably about $500 million worth of infrastructure investment. I'm trying to get the device involved in Hannah's crash replaced in Pennsylvania. I am working with them. They're exploring this. They're inventorying it. Kagi comes down. less than 8 weeks later, they're replacing it. Yeah, my advocacy mattered, but Kegi flipped the script. And good civil litigation leads to improvements on the roadside. In 2022 in Pennsylvania, I pulled the NHTSA FARS data, the fatal accidents involving guardrail with being the first harmful event. And the majority of 350 era devices have been replaced with a MASH testing system like what you see here, or the MSKT or another MASH system. And on the interstate in 2022, guardrail end impacts resulted in a net death rate of 0. So if you don't believe that civil litigation works, let me point you to Kegi versus Commonwealth in Pennsylvania and what's happened. So Pittsburgh still has a lot, and we have to, every time there's an incident, try to get them replaced before the incident happens, but when there is an incident, holding these bad actors accountable is key. Yeah, Brian, I'd love to have you walk with me. Pittsburgh is real bad. I admire your hard work. Thank you, Dennis Kanvalov. Denise Kanavalas. Love. You didn't think I could read Cyrillic, did you? Yagaru Nimanoga Paruski. I've been in about 25 Eastern European orphanages. I try not to speak too much Russian because I don't know it very well, and orphans taught me Russian. So apparently I swear a little more than I do in English. Where is this? I am in rural East Tennessee, US 321. Headed this way is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We wouldn't have division, period. You need to do more of these live videos. They are. Contact me and we'll make a plan to walk. I'm in Detroit. I'm one of my best. A lot of my friends are people that lost loved ones. Malcolm Bird, he lives in inner city Detroit. Worked for GM. His mom died in June of 2016. His dad died when a guardrail went through his car. That's how I met Malcolm. Malcolm met me in DC. We met with the Federal Highway Administration. So I'd love to. Brian, walk with me for a while. That'd be awesome. Community walk. I'm going to be live a lot of that. So I think of the Dierks Bentley song, Come and Walk With Me a While. I'd love that. But anyway, so let's get back to this guardrail. So I think like this here, this is indicative of one of the most significant guardrail errors that you will ever find. Now, what it is you'll look under here. You see that white PVC pipe? You see how what it's done is it's acting as a spacer right there. You see it? And so from a practical standpoint, I checked with the developer of this system. His name's Don Moaning. He is a professional engineer. He ran millions of dollars worth of crash tests. And I said, Don, is this, you say to cut this off, is it going to affect performance in any way? Because I thought there's no way this could affect performance. And he said, absolutely not. He said, that's going to get crushed. It's going to work just fine. We've run all kinds of analysis because even though they say cut this off and remove it, it's seldom, in many states, is cut off and removed. All you have to do is clip it. And I could do that, but goodness, they would threaten to arrest me. But you cut it, slide it there, it all comes off. But the underlying issue is we have a guardrail contractor who decides, well, I don't need to do that. And so while from a performance or degradation in performance standpoint, this is going to do little to nothing to affect how this system performs. And this is it performs very well. This system is a great system. But this is indicative of somebody who thinks they're smarter than the developer. They're like, this doesn't matter, so I'm not going to cut it. I'm going to leave it because I'm being lazy. I don't want to pick it up. But the minute you cross that line and decide that you are smarter than the developer of this product, you've crossed a really, really dangerous line. Because if you won't do this, you'll do stuff like, did you know that each one of these rings, there are 15% more rings in this post than the wood post on the trailing end. This is a special wood post. And so if you'll substitute that wood post, because it's cheaper for this wood post, well, you didn't know this had 15% more rings, and you didn't realize that bolt, after about 5 years, will come loose from that post, but this one it will stay embedded in. Now this twists sideways, and then somebody hits it, and it's that last 3 or 4% of performance it leads to a death. So when you are willing to not cut off this piece that is completely irrelevant to the performance of this device, you'll make any change. You'll do stuff like that. This is a common error where they just leave this up. But did you know that when they ran this crash testing, this breaker bar, if you don't have that, will just obliterate that rather than break it down here where it's supposed to be. Or I've seen in North Carolina where they Frankenstein this in. So the minute you're willing to compromise from the designer's drawings, you're willing to compromise anything. And that's a life lesson that you can learn about anything you do. So where's the other bolt? It only requires one. So that's kind of a universal setup. So they're trying to make it so that you can get everything aligned. They give you 2 options. It's not compromised. It's fine. Now you can see here, there's 2 there, but that's supposed to be that way. And here's another issue that's really common in Tennessee. That should be no more than 4 inches, because with a smaller sedan that can snag the vehicle. And why not make it with 1 hole only? So it's so that it could be universal. If it's not universal, so like this head can be installed upside down, so it can go on that side of the road. If you had to have parts for left, right, and all these different kind of installs, we'd have a much worse setup. By building universal parts that can be used, so sometimes you'll see slots here and slots here on another system, and no, it wasn't meant to have 2. I know. Anyways, but by having universal parts, it actually reduces the probability of an error, although it gives you a failure mode. Because if you have multiple parts on your truck, or like you go out and you have to do a left install and all you have are right-sided parts, and you're 100 miles from your shop, what I've seen is people willing to take a compromise. So a universal part that can be used on both sides of the roads or in multiple scenarios. While it introduces a potential failure mode, it also introduces, it reduces the probability of a bad install. You just put it where you need it. Absolutely. Yeah, my daughter had Jesus, but it got her to heaven, but it didn't save her life. And I've seen a lot of people who, have a 10-year-old, theologically, that is so destructive. There was a pastor, it was a very viral video with about 50 to 100 million views, and I really appreciate what he had to say. But I was also at the exact same time this crash took place in Middle Tennessee, dealing with another situation with a 10-year-old, and this is getting into some deep theological stuff with the sovereignty of God. But this mom, her daughter was 10. She had come from church, and she was killed in a guardrail crash in Pinch, West Virginia. And she said, "Why did God save this girl, but not my little girl?" And I can't answer that question. I wish. Now we know in part, then we'll fully know. But I can't answer that question. So if you're trusting in Jesus and not a guardrail, if you're not, Jesus don't care if you hit a blind-end guardrail. You don't come meet him. Why won't they just turn the rails into giant pillows? You could. If you could convince a state DOT to let you duct tape pillows on a guardrail, they would. If they certified it, they would pay for it. But anyways, crash cushions, though, they're not. Crash cushions are anything but a cushion, and a soft stop is anything but a soft stop, but they do. So like this will give you a much softer impact, but it's a violent crash. What happens here is this is hit, breaks this post down here. It breaks it off right there. And this begins moving down the rail. And this rail is stationary and it feeds through this chute. And it comes out right there. And it ribbons up. It just circles around. I've seen them shoot way up in the air and dissipating kinetic energy. So what happens is you have a vehicle. Let me look for let's wait a second here. This is rural Tennessee. We'll have a pickup truck go by here in about a minute, I would assume. But that vehicle might have somewhere in the neighborhood of 600,000. We'll go with this vehicle. It looks like a Chevrolet. No, it's a Ford SUV. Probably about 400,000 kip feet of energy. And so when this gets mobilized and this head starts moving, bends the rail, and for every foot it's about 12,000 kip feet. So what I can tell is if I have a vehicle hit this head on and it goes 12 feet, there's probably about 140,000 kips in that car. And I've talked with the developer Don, and he could tell me exactly how fast that vehicle is going. It goes 24. We know how fast it was going. It goes. And the thing I like about this system, we'll go back there for a second. This is a big difference between the one my daughter hit and some of the other ones out there, is this system, much like the soft stop and the MSKT, as much rail that can come out of there and as much rail that can go in there. So in theory, if this impact head, that car hits it and he hits it in the better example would be that tractor trailer. If he hit that at the same speed, he could feed this indefinitely, because it's essentially whatever comes in here comes out there, just ribbons it up. So in theory, this could go for 1,000 feet or 1,000,000 feet. I've seen, not this one, but I've seen SKT. It was with a truck similar in size to that, go 300 feet. So that's one thing about a guardrail end terminal that I really do like, is one that is not inherently limited. You want to bring a crash to a controlled stop as quickly as possible, because you don't want to create a secondary event, secondary and third events, fourth events. Every time there's another event within the crash, any crash, the more events you have, the more opportunity for something to go bad. So I want to bring it to a controlled stop as soon as possible, but I don't want to bring it to a controlled stop any faster than necessary, because I don't want to lacerate your aorta or give you a C1, C2 fracture. You'll be a beautiful victim, open casket, but you'll be dead right there. Anyways, why is that guardrail there? Let's take a look. That's a good question. I didn't look. This is all clear zone. We have a driveway cut up there that definitely needs a guardrail, because there's I think you could make the case that this guardrail's not really needed, because anywhere, I think it could be because they would like a larger, there's no run out area for the next run of guardrail, but there's also a driveway cut on either side. So if you hit that driveway cut, you're going into the hazard anyways. So I don't know why there's a guardrail here. I can't necessarily justify this one. Good catch. But I'm not a professional engineer. 100% guardrails are made to slow down the vehicle and redirect them back onto the road. So the guardrail end terminal, the only reason that's there is because that makes this process of redirecting the vehicle. I'm going to come back to that post right there because that's a huge problem in the state of Tennessee. But the only reason the guardrail end terminal is there was the only purpose of this guardrail is to redirect you back onto the roadside and away from the hazard. We've already pointed out that there's, at least on this run, not really any significant hazard, so you could probably justify removing this guardrail. But as you get to the beginning portion of a guardrail, so if that wasn't there and this was just guardrail and it ends, this would, until you get up about 75 feet, it's going to pull all of this out of the ground on a side impact. So to prevent that, they started adding this, what's called a breakaway cable, a BCT cable. And that allowed these guardrail runs to become redirective from right about here. But what they found is that, yes, we've solved that redirection problem and moved that's called your beginning of length of need, BLON. It made your guardrail far more redirective and put you back out onto the road. But it made this section right here extraordinarily dangerous because it fixed it. It's a fixed object. So if a vehicle came in and it hit that kind of essentially blunt end, it was spearing into the vehicle. It was really, really pronounced with small sedans, or it would just vault you and send you flying, or cause a C1, C2 fracture, like I said, or a aortic laceration from that. Just you're going and then you stop. There's Tesla. I talked about my Tesla guardrail crash tests that I broke. Got all kinds of national news. That oversized load almost went off the road. I almost had a crash on camera while I was doing a live. Just missed the guardrail. I don't know what the girl was doing, but anyways, I think she was intoxicated. But so once they anchored it, now they discovered they were spearing vehicles and causing vaulting and rollovers, so they developed these kind of energy absorbing systems. And the only reason these exist is because when they solve that problem, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. You hit this one down, new problem pops up. And so they developed these energy absorbing systems which would dissipate the kinetic energy and really bring the number of vaulting, spearings, and other stuff down. And they have in many cases. And then a couple of billion-dollar publicly traded corporations began. We had a great system called the ET2000, and then they began degrading it so they could maximize their profits. It's disgusting behavior. Let's go back. All right. How many people die every year from faulty guardrails? That's a jury question if a guardrail's faulty. But when I look, so I looked at in the neighborhood of 500 barrier crashes in the state of Tennessee over a 13-year period. And of those systems, of those 500 fatal crashes, where I found the system was properly installed, followed the design drawings, met the modern MASH testing standard that was in place at the time, did not have an installation error, was not damaged, was independently crash tested. I think there were, out of those 500 crashes, of the crashes that met that criteria, I think there were 2. I'd have to look. It was either 2 or 3. So, and that was in the state of Tennessee over a 12-year period. Now, how many had lethal installation errors that were causative or contributive to the fatal outcome? Probably, that's a tough call. Well, that's why I say a lawyer needs to investigate every single guardrail crash to look for causation. not just, it doesn't, just because there's an error present doesn't mean it was causative or contributive to the death. But as far as like meeting the modern standards, independent crash testing, and not being damaged and being properly installed, it's almost 0% that meet all those. Yeah, we've talked about guardrails being deadly for motorcycles and our just indifference to public safety. Do I do this for fun? No. My daughter was 17 years old, Brian. So my daughter was 17 years old, and it was about just in 10 days, 8 years ago, she hit an X-Lake guardrail and it speared through her vehicle, and she was eviscerated. So I began asking questions. I soon tied Hannah's death to 3 others in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee billed my daughter for the device that killed her that they had banned before her crash. Gave me a national platform. I was on CBS National News, NBC. I was all over the world. Washington Post. It was everywhere. And all of a sudden, people kept calling me and saying, hey, this happened to my loved one. And pretty soon I was meeting with senators and congressmen and all kinds of folks discussing the problems I was finding. And then I had a wrongful death. That guy's likely to cause a crash. Anyways, and it gave me a huge platform. Hannah's wrongful death case came to a conclusion, and I was like, well, what do I do with all this knowledge I accumulated? I was on my way to Virginia to shoot a story with WUSA. Now, I actually have an Emmy Award in my basement from that story. The reporter gave it to me. It led to statewide inspections in Virginia and Maryland, and millions, tens of millions of dollars worth of improvements. Actually had 5 stories this year, 5, that have won regional Emmy Awards for the reporters that pursued them. Their investigations I started here on YouTube. But anyways, that's kind of how I got it, how I got going. I bet you're the life of the party. Hey, that's terrible. I try not to dominate that conversation because so Brian, on the Jack Doherty crash, he's a jackass. I actually archived that crash through a safety vid feature. You can search I have a comment on the Jack Doherty crash because I had exclusive video that I was able to obtain of the actual crash. It was very distorted because it was pouring rain. Jack is a jerk. He's obnoxious. And what I would tell Jack is what I tell every single person that's in a guardrail crash. You were offered an opportunity my daughter didn't get. Live with a purpose. And he's got such a huge platform. But if you search Jack Doherty in my YouTube channel, you'll see the actual crash. It's very distorted. I think it was at 1 hour and 2 minutes or somewhere along there. The commenters found it, but I can't see it. And then I have some exclusive footage, and his presentation on the live stream, now the video footage that I captured paints him in a better light, but Jack made himself look like a jerk. But get off your phone, Jack. What's your point? You lost your kid. Well, all right. Great. This is just, I've been able to use what happened to Hannah for good. I've gotten billions of dollars worth of, $1 billion at least, worth of guardrail replaced, federal law passed, state law passed, and been able to help a lot of people. A lot of people obtain justice, and so it's what I did. We don't need to be driving bumper cars. We don't need to live in a bubble wrap world. But we also, I'm just reading these comments. But when we pay for a guardrail to be properly installed, it should be properly installed. These guardrails are not meant to just be a jobs program. We don't install guardrails so that people who test them will have something to test. People that develop them will have something to develop. People that produce steel will have something to make. and people that transport them will have something to transport, and people that install them will have something to install. No, we install guardrails to save lives, and somewhere along the way that idea got lost. Do they save more people than they hurt? That's a really important question that very few people are asking, so I don't know. Where am I at? I am actually right now across from Wind River, which is a golf community in East Tennessee on US 321. I'm just out for a walk. But yeah, when installed properly, I think they can make a huge difference. Sorry for your loss, man. Thank you for using it for inspiration. What God meant, or what man meant for evil, God meant for good. No, are you on I-40? I try not to ever walk on the interstate. Occasionally you'll see me come up through an elephant trap or off an exit to document something that needs to be fixed. But I try to stay off the interstate more, not because I'm worried about myself, but because I don't want to create something that causes somebody else to die. It can be terrifying to be on the interstate, people driving, going 120. Here's another thing. I paid a friend to turn on and start archiving all Tennessee DOT's cameras. Man, if you are in a road rage incident, just back off. Back off. You say you had a 2-year-old child in your car and you're terrified. I've captured multiple critical injury and fatal homicides. I don't share those videos. There are some folks that get access to these traffic camera feeds that will share fatal incidents. I can't do it. I emotionally cannot do it. I usually will provide those to law enforcement. But what I would tell you, if you have somebody who's getting mad at you on the interstate, they will shoot you. I've seen it, and they will shoot your children. There was in Memphis, and there was just one in Knoxville. So don't anyone take this and start. What's amazing to me is that, like, when I talk about a guardrail being improperly installed, all of a sudden they'll blame it on the white rednecks or the Mexicans or the union or the non-union, or it's like, y'all a bunch of bigots. What I found is that regardless of where the guardrail install is taking place, they all suck. So it's not something about that person ontologically. It's about the lack of seriousness and sobriety. There goes DOT. Stared at me. But I have a love-hate relationship with them. I love to point out their problems and they hate me. Anyways, don't engage with another driver on the interstate. Get away from them, because is it Prospect? Anyways, there was a recent critical injury shooting with 5 injured, 2 children in Memphis, but there was one in Knoxville. And so I'll just get those videos and forward them on to law enforcement. I'm not sharing them publicly. But when you're on the interstate anywhere, in Alabama, bad. Seattle, bad. We've captured shootings on the interstate all over the country. Well done indeed. Oh, the guardrail guy. This is going to be a real thrilling live stream. Long Dong, that's mean. Keep up the great work you do. Understood. Yeah, so death by dangerous driving should be treated as murder. No one is ignorant to the dangers of it. I remember when I was working Western New York. I don't want to be, well, I could be really specific, but I'm not going. But just, we had a triple fatal. I was taking care of the child in the hospital, 3-year-old orphan. Both parents killed by a drunk driver. Drunk driver was killed in that incident. The lead medic on that crash, 2 weeks later, was pulled over for DUI. It was one of the most disgusting, and people are like, oh, well, he had a lot to deal with. He just saw 3 people get killed in a DUI crash and saw a 3-year-old child orphaned. You're without excuse. So we should be prosecuting a lot of the stuff that happens on our roadside much more seriously. It's amazing what you can get away with. There was a recent crash up in Maryland, again, archived by my friends at safetyvid.org. If you ever need video of a crash, they archive DOT cameras, but this helped prosecute these 2 cases. But they killed 6 DOT contractors, and they got, I think, 6 months. I mean, a month per person? I mean, if you did that in with any other weapon, you'd be, why am I green? I am fluorescent yellow, and it's just to be more visible. It's super foggy this morning. It does give my face a little bit of a green glow too, but anyways, sadly in New York State they use railroad tracks, and then over the years when the cable from the post fails, they never remove the rail. Yeah, I've seen some really old deadly rail in New York. I'm from western New York, south of Buffalo, a little town called Fredonia, and man, people think I pick on Tennessee. If I lived in New York, the guardrails up there are horrible. Brother, get a bicycle, come ride with us. The world is driving me nuts too. We can't fix it. Well, we can make it a little bit better. Bro, I was going to troll you, but I won't. Ben. All right, Mr. Dover. Good call. If you're ever at Bucksnord exit and I see you, I'll give you a big hug. God is good. Thank you. He says that's why I have a hammer, because some people, I've been tempted. Have you ever seen the little thing you use for when you're training your kids in t-ball, the little, I want to take that with me to DC, and every time somebody cuts across the crosswalk, hit them and they bust out their light. But that's why I don't carry that with me, because I probably don't have the self-control. All right, then we're going to put you in a timeout for 24 hours. Bye, Felicia. Let's see. All right, so Ben has been timed out, so we'll have no more of his comments. Let me flip this back around. I am out for a walk because I'm trying to build up my endurance, because I intend to, in about 3 weeks, begin a walk from where my daughter was killed to the governor's office at Capitol Hill in Tennessee. That's about a 200-mile walk. It'll take several days because I'm slow and old. But what I intend to do is document all of the installation errors that I find in an effort to push the governor to begin a statewide inspection of our entire barrier system, not just here in Loudoun County. I can do that, but around the state, but also push for best practices, fidelity to our design drawings, installation training on a regular basis, not just a one-off kind of training, and then embracing of new technologies like computer vision modeling and LiDAR with essentially AI. And these days AI, everything's AI this, AI that, but AI with guardrail. Once we teach our models our ability to inspect our systems and integrate that, so and I'll show you, and this system right here plays a key role in it, because they have done something that no one else did, and that's that right there. That is RFID tag. And if we could put RFID tags on all of our systems, and using AI with LiDAR scanning, we go by, we find an anomaly in this guardrail, picks up the location and all of the history on the system, creates the work order. So it actually is going to make the job a whole lot easier. But we need to get these dinosaurs that run some of our state DOTs to either embrace modern technology or get out of the way. They need to go retire and go play golf. Let the next generation of leaders either become a leader. To quote Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged, get the hell out of the way. That's really what we need, is a lot of these people that are currently in our DOT to get the hell out of the way, because they are pathetic. They don't want to make the system better. They don't necessarily want to make it worse, but they don't want to make it better. And they are vile, and they're lazy, and a lot of the stuff we do is just because we're lazy, and they want to watch cat videos and drink coffee and complain about their job and wait for their miserable retirement because anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. It's Steve the Guardrail Guy, but I'm talking about my plans for a walk across the state of Tennessee to push for some legislative and executive action that I hope will make the roads safer and protect taxpayers, and ensure that what we're buying is what we're getting, that we're not installing signs. My favorite thing, I bet I could find 1,000 wrong way signs in the state of Tennessee that are installed the wrong way. It's hilarious. It's not hilarious because too many people have died, but that sign is too low. Our design drawings are crystal clear, but we don't follow them. Anyways, so I'm just building up my endurance. Hit like, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do that. I normally make short form content, very, very little long form content, and I've been embracing this whole live streaming thing just a little bit, but not too much. I'm just out for a walk on US 321. It is a divided highway. It's not a limited access road though, but I stay as far away from that road as possible because people are crazy. What I do is I document problems with infrastructure, primarily guardrail and barriers, but also I've gotten interested in signs. What's funny is they were like, well, you're the guy that gets to focus on just the light switches in the house, so you can be really critical of the light switches. So their problem is I started pulling all their design drawings from Tennessee DOT. It's really funny because, like, do you think a house that has all of the light switches bad has done everything else right? And that's the same thing with guardrails. If all your guardrails are installed right or wrong, do you think your signs are installed right? Well, no. Like that there. That's 8 to 9 inches above grade. It should be no more than 4. This here should be 7 feet high. I'm not Shaquille O'Neal, folks. I'll tell you that. I can dunk a basketball on my child's a basketball rim on the back of the door, but not on a regular basketball. But we don't do anything right. We do virtually nothing right. And they're like, well, you don't know how hard it is to do our job. Well, here, do you want to trade with me? You don't know what it's like to be the parent of a dead child who was failed by infrastructure. And, you know, people can say, oh, you're just grumbling and complaining, Steve. Well, just search the record. Search the record, and I have a huge media footprint, legal footprint. I'll let you be the jury of whether I'm just complaining. I'm not here to rehash any kind of legal case. I'm just saying that there's a reason why I've been able to get $1 billion worth of guardrails replaced. It's because I'm right, not because I'm passionate. So I love cable barrier. It is really bad for motorcyclists, but it does prevent crossover protection, and it does protect motorcyclists that are potential victims of a cable barrier or crossover crash. But if they're the ones doing the crossover, it has a really big potential to harm them. What typically will kill a motorcyclist is not the cables. The cables seldom kill a motorcyclist. That's not the mechanism of the injury that gets them. It is interaction with the post right there. Which brings me to another point. if you're a motorcyclist or if you're anyone, this is something, listen to me, this is something that could save your life. Get on Amazon and order a tourniquet. Order 2. Because I had a Texas state trooper that needed 2. He had 1 and he had a belt. They're tiny. You just put them in your glove box. You put them in your backpack or whatever, your saddlebag. And it may be your life that's saved, or it may be somebody else's life that you can save. But tourniquets save lives, especially in guardrail crashes. It's probably the number one tool that I have seen. Probably at least 24 people whose lives have been saved. Ricky up in West Virginia, I met with Ricky and he was saved because, and they just, I mean, if you have to, this right here, rip your sleeve off, rip your shirt off, pick up a piece of stick, just twist it, make a tourniquet, stop the bleeding. Stop the bleed. I think it's stopthebleed.org. You can get some training on tourniquets. See why I'm so passionate about it. Look at that. What the heck is that? It's a big weight, but anyways. I'm not carrying that home. But tourniquets save lives, especially in guardrail crashes. I've seen several dozen people survive. There's one in particular that didn't survive. It was a crash, southern state. It's sunny. I'm gonna put my sunglasses on. Don't want to be too specific because I don't want to hurt the family, but this person lost their leg, and you can hear them saying it hurts, and it hurts, and it fading. You can hear the fading as they sanguinate, and they arrested, cardiac arrest. They bled out, and they were able to resuscitate them, but they died 2 days later in a tourniquet. I don't know why they didn't have a tourniquet, but buy a tourniquet. Go on to Amazon.com and get and I don't know, this isn't sponsored. This is just, I believe in tourniquets. So that goes back to that motorcycle question. Let me flip this around. It's one of the few tools that really does make a difference in a guardrail crash, but there's GSWs, anything that produces a lot of blood loss. Tourniquets can save lives. And you might be, I'm 49, took EMS training. When I was in EMT school and paramedic school, tourniquets were really frowned upon, but you can't come back from being dead. So it's better to throw the tourniquet on there and save somebody's life than let them bleed out and be like, well, we didn't put the tourniquet on. Well, you let them bleed out. So get a tourniquet and put it in your saddlebag or your glove box. If you don't take anything else away from this live stream today, get a tourniquet. Steve the Guardrail Guy, I'm out for a walk and just practicing for a walk across the state of Tennessee from where my daughter was killed to the governor's office, just to document. I think I'll probably document, my guess is it will be in the several thousand locations where guardrails are functionally deficient, maybe missing bolts, maybe damaged, maybe have a stolen cable, or Frankenstein, meaning they've mixed parts together, or are fraudulent, or various other issues, bearing plates upside down, maintenance issues, well below standard with relation to height. And I'm pushing the governor and our legislature to act, to stop looking the other way. William Wilberforce. I'm not Presbyterian, but these Presbyterian ministers, man, they gave us some great quotes. Wilberforce was a British parliamentarian who, I believe, is more responsible than any other person for ending the scourge of the African slave trade into the African slave trade. And he said, you may choose to look the other way, but you can never again say you did not know. He would present the facts. And he didn't always meet a really nice audience. And I've seen that. I don't always get a very nice audience with these state DOTs. Many of them hate me. And I'm not talking about, well, like, they just don't, no, they hate me. But when I present the facts to them, and I said this to Commissioner Ely here in Tennessee, you may choose to look the other way, sir, but you can never again say you did not know. And I can't make them be better, but I can throw the facts in their face, and if they ignore it, like they have so many times. Now, they've acted on a lot. They've made millions upon millions of dollars worth of investments informed by information that I gave them. I mean, I could go over there. The grates that were in the median here, all missing. I've gotten probably $25,000 worth of culverts corrected right here alone. So they've listened to me on a lot of stuff, but they need to listen to me more. They don't need to listen to me. They need to listen to their design drawings. That's the thing. I don't want them to do what I want them to do. I want them to follow their own design drawings. And that's where we have our big problem, is that they don't want to follow their own design drawing. And that causes a lot of the problem. Is they have a design drawing, and I get their design drawing, and I go out on the roadside and I measure their guardrails. And I'm like, hey, this doesn't meet your design drawings. And they're like, well, you're not a professional engineer. I'm like, I know I'm not. That's why I'm using your design drawings. I want you to follow your design drawings. Well, who are you? I'm like, I'm Steve, but this is TDOT's design drawings. I've learned, don't give them my opinion. Nobody cares what my opinion is, but if I show you your design drawing and it says, don't do this, and you do it, you're not arguing with me, you're arguing with yourself. And it becomes an issue of which one of you are we going to believe. And I'm going to believe the one that's got the design drawing, not the one that's saying we're not going to follow the design drawing, because you're just being lazy. I'm going to get across this road here, hopefully not get hit. Anyways, it's Steve the Guardrail Guy. Thanks. I've got a nice little group of people with me today, 100 and some. It seems like we're hitting about, I think I saw 130 or 40 just a minute ago, so it bounces around from 80 right now to 140. Those that are joining, thank you. Hit that like button. I don't know how it helps with the algorithm stuff, but I guess it does. There's cable barrier. That there, you see that? That is actually an end terminal for cable barrier. I don't want to talk too much, but if you work EMS or police, or a police officer, or there are ways to release that. So this has about 6,000 pounds of tension in a crash that could build up to 12,000 pounds, very deadly. Do not ever cut the cable. Not because I care if it gets damaged. It's super expensive. But when you cut that cable, it's gonna go and maybe cut your head off or somebody else's head off. So don't cut it. You have to release it properly. Reach out to your local DOT. They can do training. Wisconsin DOT has done some training. I once made a video about how to release them, which was a really bad idea, because I don't want to put that information just out there, because I don't want people releasing them who shouldn't be releasing them. And so I took that one down. But you can get that training if you have a legitimate reason for why you might need to release a cable. But don't cut them. Whatever you do, don't cut them. It's super, super dangerous. It's Steve the Guardrail Guy, just out for a walk. If you have a comment or question, I put it in the comments there. Appreciate everyone who's joined me. I'm just trying to build up my endurance for this walk in a few weeks. So I am out for a walk on US 321 in Loudoun County, Tennessee. I'm almost to Blount County. I almost walked across one county. No, not all the way across the county. I started on the edge, but I've walked about maybe 4 or 5 miles already. When I walk from my daughter's crash site to the governor's office, it'll be about 200 miles. I'll live stream a lot of it. I'm going to document the incidents and problems I find with barriers and signs and whatever I find on the roadside. So I'm having some issues here with connectivity. I've had some phone issues. Let me see, I'm gonna actually plug this in. If we have, I'm gonna plug in a booster here. I'm going to keep walking for a bit. Plug my phone in. But I'm just trying to get some zoom that back out. Sorry about that. Just out for a walk this morning. Getting some endurance in for this walk where I document the barriers across the state of Tennessee. I've gotten several miles this morning. Up ahead of me are the Great Smoky Mountains. I can see 1 ridge, 2 ridges, 3 ridges. It's just kind of, it's amazing how, I'm talking about some ugly stuff with people getting cut in half, legs cut off by guardrails, but you never want to miss the beauty that's right in front of your face. My daughter Hannah loved J.R.R. Tolkien, and there is in Lord of the Rings a specific line. I actually came out to this song called "The Dark Before the Dawn" at Hannah's funeral. It's sung by Andrew Peterson, and it's if you've watched Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's version of it, he talks about how it's in Samwise's speech. The speech is Samwise Gamgee, where he says, he talks about like being small and insignificant and how there's good in this world and it's worth fighting for. It's a really iconic speech. It's one of my favorite speeches. And that is from fiction, but still, even though it's fiction, there's so much truth in it. But it comes from Tolkien's book, where Sam and Frodo are in Mordor, about to enter Mordor, and it's just darkness everywhere, and he looks up and there's a single star, and it's shining through, and he realizes there is high beauty forever beyond there's high beauty forever beyond the reach of the darkness, and that this this darkness, whether it's the loss of my daughter Hannah or just the corruption that we see in the guardrail industry, that there is high beauty forever beyond the reach of that darkness. And I don't want to ever miss that. I don't want to ever just be so focused on the ugliness right here that I miss the incredible beauty. So then I said I saw 3 ridges. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4 ridges. And I don't want to ever get to the point where I can come out here and be focused on the ugliness right in front of me and miss that, oh my gosh, I have one of the most beautiful, majestic views in my camera and I'm looking at a bad sign install, which I am. I'm looking at a bad sign install right in front of my face. It's, the orientation of the sign, the stub is too high, many issues with that. But I still have high beauty forever beyond the reach of that darkness. That mountain is going to be here a lot longer than that stupid, improperly installed sign. Anyways, let's keep walking for a bit. I want to get to another guardrail, and then I may go ahead and call for a ride, because I don't want it to walk all the way back. I've walked several miles, but I want to get picked up. It's Steve, the guardrail guy. Thanks for joining me this morning. I still have a little while that I'm going to walk, but I'm prepping for a walk across the state of Tennessee to push for some legislative and executive action related to the absolutely pathetic state of our barriers in the state of Tennessee. And the thing is, I'm not knocking Tennessee, because they're probably in the top 5 to 10% of performers. It's just that everyone else sucks that much worse. We just do not take. We're like the guy that goes to church. He's like, well, I want to learn all about Jesus, and I want to study, and I want to sing about him, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. But they don't want to practice it. That's the one thing. They'll love to study safety. They like to talk about safety. They like to make videos about safety. The one thing they don't like to do is practice it. But anyways, now I'm being cynical. It's Steve, the guardrail guy. I'm in Loudoun County, Tennessee. I'm about to walk into Blount County, Tennessee. I'm out for a walk, just kind of inspecting the barriers. I'll talk about, here's something that could save your life. Do you see that? Well, let's zoom in. Let me zoom out. That sucker right there. Those are dangerous, but you see how the back of it is red and the front of it is white? If you are ever driving down the road like this, they're driving at me, and you're seeing red reflectors, you're going the wrong way. You're going the wrong way. Or there is a slim chance they could all be installed wrong, but most likely you're going the wrong way. You need to remember, a lot of times when I capture crashes involving a wrong way driver, they almost always occur in the left lane. But that's not because the wrong way driver thinks that he's in the fast lane. No, he believes, and they mostly occur in urban centers between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. They involve a confused driver or an intoxicated driver in the left lane. They are going below the speed limit, so they think they're in the right lane and everyone else is going the wrong way. So when I'm in an urban center at night, I stay out of the left lane for this reason, because about 80 to 90% of the crashes that I see involving a wrong way driver happen in an urban center in the left lane at night. But if you are ever on a divided highway and you are seeing red reflectors, you're going the wrong way. Immediately move over. Get over, get onto the shoulder, get oriented, stop, and then plan for how you're going to get out of the situation. Don't try making a twisty turn or anything like that. Just get off the road at a stop immediately. And again, one way to avoid that wrong way driver is play the odds. At night, urban centers, stay out of the left lane. Because they think they're in the right lane. They're going slower because they're confused, intoxicated. They're trying to fly below the radar, but instead they're driving the wrong way. We have a couple guardrails we'll take a look at up here. It's Steve the Guardrail Guy. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Had a lot of interaction earlier. I don't seem to have much right now, not many questions, but I love answering questions because otherwise I just talk. I would go out in the median, but I don't want to. I'm kind of, when you're on a live, you're a little bit more distracted than if I'm going out there with just waiting and watching every single driver and planning out my entry and egress into a dangerous situation. So I don't see any value in doing that on a live stream. It's too risky. So I'm not going to do that today. But we'll walk up here, take a look at these guardrails. But on our right, we have a do not enter sign that's much too close to the barrier. You don't want to mix multiple safety features together in one safety feature. Peepaws, hey, they moved to Spay Neuter Clinic in Knoxville, in Loudoun County. My dog Raleigh, he's a treeing walker. He's been to Peepaws. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. I felt bad, but he had to. Anyways, he's a much better behaved dog. Plus, he's not out there sowing his wild oats. But it's a great charity organization. It's a nice facility compared to their old place. Anyways, if you ever want to support somebody, Peepaw Spay Neuter Clinic, they're pretty good people. Anyways, let's keep walking. It's Steve the Guardrail Guy. I'm out just for a walk, trying to build up my endurance for the walk across the state. We'll take a look at this trailing end. Say, see an issue right from this distance. This is US 321 State Route 73 in Loudoun County, Tennessee. And so this guardrail here was placed by the Tennessee Department of Transportation, Unisha Road. So right here, let's take a look. A guardrail, any stub or anything like this should be no more than 4 inches above grade, because that can snag the bottom of the vehicle. You can see that is about 8 to 10 inches above grade. That will spear a vehicle when you have an impact. Most likely it's somebody who's turning right onto this road. They might not quite make their turn. They'll hit that sign. They'll hit the guardrail. And if they're closer to this point right here, will hit this, and that can spear the fuel tank and cause a fire. It can also just stop the vehicle. It's like a tail hook on an airplane. Stops the vehicle. It just flips end over end. It's fairly well designed for TDOT, but that's no good. That's dangerous. That's a huge problem in the state of Tennessee. Any of our stubs. Now this is okay. You see, those are flexible. Those can be within 4 feet of this rail. And our design drawings show that. 4 feet within the rail, flexible, and you can even put them on there, according to TDOT's design standards. So I have no problem with this. It's when we put rigid signs within that violates their design standards. So like here, we have a soft stop. This is awful. That is, as Charles Barkley would say, that's terrible. It's absolutely terrible, folks. I love Charles Barkley. Anyways, this is terrible. So this is a panel called SGRS4. It should be a straight 25-foot panel. It allows you to transition from mid-rail splices to, oh my gosh, this thing is just Suckosaurus. So, property of Loudoun County. This stub should be no more than 4 inches. You can see that is closer to 3.5 feet. It should be that edge of that sign right here should be 4 feet from this edge. You can see the pole. The pole is about 4 fingers from and the sign actually overhangs the rail. And you can see, here is the Tennessee DOT inspection on October 2017 as part of this contract right there. We'll come back around here. This is a soft stop. So we have a sign with a stub that's way too high. It's way too close to the rail. It's within the W-beam panels. This, the SGRS 4 panel, we come up here. This should be a straight rail. You can see it's got a radius. It's got a bend in it. It's not a radius rail. You can see they actually just bent the rail, kind of like that Chinese video that I keep getting hit on TikTok. They just bent it, and made it fit. Beat it to fit, paint it to match. But this should be a straight rail. This, because you have your splices are between the rails, and that's right, that's proper. I'll talk about that in a second. But you've got to get back to on-post splicing because that's older rail. You have to take this pole, and I forgot to talk about this earlier. They pulled this up and moved it from right here to right here, which is proper. But when you do not have a punched hole like what you see here, this is an engineered hole. It's punched, not drilled. And then the mushroom bolt allows it to pass through. Here, they have just field drilled it, so now that it's fixed to the rail, and that's not going to release. What happens is, as that system is mobilized properly, moves down, it interacts with that sign, which you shouldn't have there. The vehicle will interact with, so here are the things that could potentially kill you. Besides that, you're going into, this here is way too high. That could puncture your fuel tank. That could come through your vehicle and cut your head off. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. These are basic Newtonian physics. They're like, you're not an engineer. Yeah, but I went to middle school. You cannot have a radius or bend in the rail because vehicles go straight when they're impacted, and they just did. They just put the radius in here and just did what they wanted to. I got into fire ants, folks, or something. It's not fire ants because I would be dancing around with ants in my pants. But anyways, so this radius is wrong. That SGRS 4 panel is wrong. And it's got an inspection sticker. You see that field drill hole is wrong. The design drawings do not allow for a radius rail there. They don't allow for that field drill hole. You should not be. It's just beyond frustrating. So like this is what I'm talking about. That one sign is wrong. These are okay because they're flexible. But that metal stub, way too high. Way too high. No more than 4 inches. Way too high. So now we're coming down here. This is an older. Let's go take a look at this. This is a Trinity ET Plus. Old school. Let's take a look in here. So that exit chute. I gotta come back and measure it. Unisha Road, US 321. That exit chute is a little bit wider than typical. There was a lot of allegations of fraud related to this system. And that is a 5-inch model. They altered what got a lot of attention is when they altered this part to 4 inches to save $3. What caused a lot of fatalities is that exit chute where the bolts, I'll take you down here, and it's much more pronounced when the first rail is just 12 feet. But these bolts cannot make it through this impact head, and the system locks up, and you get in a crash, you come up here, I've seen it many times, you feel right there, you palpate there, and those bolts are embedded in the feeder chute, and it just stops the rail dead, and you're just dead right there because it either stops the vehicle and it can cause all kinds of internal injuries, or can cause the rail to kink and come into the vehicle. I might have just found something really useful. I need to come back and measure that distance, because that is a wider exit gate. Maybe one of the pre-change ET Pluses, because this is a 5-inch model. Usually they don't have that there. They're playing really fast and loose with the rules, folks. Back in 2005, there was some really shady stuff that went down, and this is involved in. You can look up Missouri versus Trinity. I paid like a $56 million fraud settlement to the state there. You look up Trinity guardrail litigation, there was tons of it. Most of it's related to this, at least in my opinion, this feeder chute. There's some other issues. You see how the head is not fixed center on the vehicle. I think that's a defect. They cut as much as they possibly could off of this, so this can actually get not seated properly and come out the side. The length of this chute is much shorter than, say, that soft stop we were just looking at. So the end of the crash, if this hits near the right passenger side headlight and the vehicle's coming back onto the road, that kind of pivots. The head pivots and it creates a kink, but if there's still enough kinetic energy in the vehicle, that kink will then come into the driver's side headlight. It doesn't get caught up in the engine. It will pass right through the firewall and go up the steering column and go right through the driver. I've seen it happen so many times. If you're ever involved with a crash involving a Trinity ET Plus, get the rail preserved, get the car preserved, and contact a really good attorney like Teresa Monroe or Richie Sullivan, Wayne Ritchie, Steve Lawrence, Kent Emerson. There's a bunch of them. You can always track me down and call me. I will point you to somebody who's not a wreck and don't call a wreck and to check guy. Those guys are idiots. Absolute idiots. If they're on TV with a moped saying, we'll turn your wreck into a check, they're gonna screw up your case, and I mean, you might have a case that's worth tens of millions of dollars, and those jokers can turn it into a $10 case. All right. Anyways, Steve the guardrail guy. I am going to I'll take a look at this sign, because this might be an issue. One of the things, this is a U channel. So yeah, a couple things. One, I am not Shaquille O'Neal. This should be 7 feet above grade. I'm about 5'9", 5'10". You can see where my head is. The orientation of this, if impacted, is going to potentially, it's installed. Let's flip that around. I love it. It's installed the wrong way. That stub should be no more than 4 inches above grade, and it's about 6. That has a Teflon washer. That has a nylon washer. Nylon washers. Those are right. But just when you scale your mistakes, this one sign is probably not going to lead to a bad outcome. But we have about 40,000 wrong signs, and that's guaranteed. You've scaled your mistake, and you're gonna kill people. And that's kind of what's happened with our DOT here in the state of Tennessee. And it's not just Tennessee. We scale our mistakes. Let me see here. Okay, that's just an insurance adjuster. I got smoked the other day, folks. I was driving. I was going to a FCA event for the University of Tennessee, a local FCA, and Jimmy Dykes, I think it's Jimmy, the ESPN basketball guy, was speaking. A really good guy. One of the things stressed was like this fidelity to the basics. Told a story about Tyler Hainsborough and why he was such a great basketball player. But anyways, it was that commitment to the basics. But I was on my way, and oh my goodness, traffic slows and I hear screeching and I was like, somebody's about to get hit. And then all of a sudden, boom, I got hit from behind. Fortunately, I had my seatbelt on. I don't know if you know this, the headrest is not a headrest. It is a safety device that prevents whiplash. I was pretty sore the next day, but did do okay. I'm still here, but I'm waiting. My vehicle got smashed from behind. I think it was a texting issue. The guy did have insurance, thank goodness. Minimal insurance, but I believe in grace, so I might be a sucker. But I asked the police officer, I said, listen, I think he has legitimate insurance. He's been fully admitted he was at fault. I'd like you to avoid writing a ticket, because he is a painter. He worked hard. I can tell he worked hard, but it didn't do him good to get him a $200 or $300 ticket, have him have to go to court, lose a day of work. He already smashed up his car. I think I want to have grace. I also want to hold people accountable, but anyways, it's Steve the Guardrail Guy out for a walk here. Really just prepping for a walk across the state of Tennessee from where my daughter crashed in McMinn County, rural McMinn County, to Nashville, Tennessee and Capitol Hill, where I'm going to document thousands of installation errors. And I'm going to walk up to the door at the governor's office, which is open to the public, and I'm going to knock on that door, and I'm going to say, here's a list. Will the governor meet with me? And I have engaged in progressive civil disobedience for years, way earlier than the crash involving my daughter. I'll tell you a story. We've got 17 grandparents because we've adopted so many kids, and one of my daughters, her great grandfather was going on one of these honor flights, and there was a government shutdown, and they shut down the World War II toilets at the World War II Memorial in DC. So I was mad, and like many of my stupid, I make a comment and I say I'm going to do this, and then somebody says, well, yeah, you should, and then I'm like hot committed. I ordered a bunch of portable toilets and sent them to the National Mall in DC, and they were threatening to arrest the driver, and he's like, what should I do? I said, well, let me come up, I'm going to deliver these toilets, and if I get arrested over my toilets. But I said, is there a Parks Police person there? And they said, yeah. I said, I want to talk to him. And I asserted that my toilets were protected First Amendment speech. It got elevated. It was on Fox News. It was on a bunch of different, Politico, I think, had it. But I was able to win this battle, and it ended up the National Honor Flight Network took the contract that I had, paid for the toilets. I got all the credit, but they took all the payment and hard work. But I was able to put those toilets on the National Mall for our veterans that were visiting the World War II Memorial. But I tell you, I love First Amendment advocacy. I don't always love what Elon Musk does, but I am a First Amendment absolutist. And I won that battle for toilets, portable toilets, on the National Mall in a government shutdown are protected First Amendment speech. I'll walk across the state, get those 1,000 or so locations documented, present those to the governor, and we'll see how he responds. If he doesn't respond, maybe I'll do some other. I've put billboards outside Congressman's office. I've done a Super Bowl ad. You can Google that. It was on CBS, and Inside Edition, I was live on MSNBC. That was scary because you can when there's no editor, you kind of like this live, you say what you say, you can sound like a complete idiot. Anyways, I love First Amendment advocacy because it's just standing up for what's right. But it's Steve the Guardrail Guy. I'm just out here for a walk, trying to build up my endurance. But my phone is about to die. My power bank is dead. And if I don't end my live stream here, my phone dies. I'm going to have to walk the 7 or 8 miles I've walked back to, so I need to call for a ride before my phone dies. But I'll walk just to, let me check my battery. I've got 20%. I will go till I get to 15% and that red light comes on, because I do not want to have to walk all the way home. Anyways, thanks to everyone who's joined me today. We're looking at just barriers. That is a cable guardrail across the way, 4 strands. Here's the thing. Most of our purchasers of barriers are not very sophisticated, and that's a legal term, and I'm not giving legal advice, but there's something called a sophisticated purchaser. And most people who buy these things are not sophisticated purchasers. So, and I'm not a sophisticated purchaser. I just have read every manual, every design drawing, watched every crash test, and read about 50,000 news articles, and that's not an exaggeration. You can ask my wife. I've read pretty much every guardrail crash article on Google that I could find since 2011 in English and Portuguese, and a lot in a bunch of other languages, but focused primarily on English and Portuguese, a little bit in Spanish. And I've just developed a unique set of skills. And that's how I've learned so much about guardrail, is I've read a lot of times I'll get on a video, and it's been on the internet. Now this is a video on crash testing, and system that maybe has millions, or not millions, but tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of installs, and the video has 2 views, and I know that I'm one of them, and I know there are 50 state DOTs, a dozen provincial DOTs that use this product, a bunch of city and other DOTs that use this product, and me and one other person watched it. That's pathetic. That really is insulting to me when I see a system that's out on the roadside and has 1 or 2 views on it. What I know is that means one other person, hopefully a state DOT official, but not even guaranteed, has watched that critical video, but none of the others did. That sign there, it's straddling the cable barrier. That's acceptable. The stub height looks good, but you don't want to be mixing two safety features together. You offset it. You don't have to put it like that. And the thing is, they own the median. They don't have to do this. It comes down to often laziness. So, let's see. This is Hickory Valley Road. I don't know if I've walked all the way to Blount County. You know, here's an interesting thing. East Tennessee, I didn't know this till I moved here. Loudoun County, where I'm at, is one of the biggest producers of canola oil. It's, there you go. Well, let's, Justin Nunley, there's some useless information for you. If you're ever on Jeopardy, I provide a lot of useless information, but some good stuff too. It's Steve the Guardrail Guy. It's 70 some of y'all on here right now. I don't know if I shut off the comments when I muted one person, but the comments seem to have stopped, or I don't know how to get them. But anyways, I'm just walking along US 321, State Route 73. The Great Smoky Mountains are up beyond us, maybe 30 miles. We'll go to Maryville and then get into Townsend, Tennessee. My daughter's at school up in Townsend. Alexis. Beautiful area. Lots of bears. A little quieter side of the Smokies. Foothills Parkway is right there. If you have never done the missing link of the Foothills Parkway between Townsend that goes through Wares Valley and down into Pigeon Forge, now is a beautiful time to make that trip. It's one of the most iconic road courses to come online in the last 10 years. The sign, do not enter, but the stub there is, you see, that's about 1 inch, 2, 3, 4. Everything from there up is too high and can snag the vehicle, cause a gas tank rupture. Let's go up here. Let's see if this wrong way sign. I love wrong way signs because they're almost always installed the wrong way, and I just think it's ironic. It's kind of like when somebody says you're an idiot and spells it Y-O-U-R. I love when people call me an idiot and say you're, Y-O-U-R, because it should, well, anyways, I don't want to be a grammar Nazi, but I do particularly enjoy when they install their wrong way signs the wrong way. So this should be 7 feet high, and I guarantee you, and can't quite hit it. I don't see the stub. It may just be buried in the ground. It could be in concrete. That's the scary thing. You don't necessarily know when it's buried. Use these nylon washers. That's nylon washer. Let's go up, take a look at that guardrail, and then I'm gonna end my live stream because my battery bank is dead. My phone is approaching 15%, and if I don't call for a ride, I'm gonna have to walk 8 miles back. I don't want to do that. So we'll take a look at one last guardrail. It's Steve, the guardrail guy. Thank you for everyone who's joined me today. Again, I'm getting in some longer walks in anticipation of walking from McMinn County, Tennessee and rural East Tennessee, where my daughter Hannah was killed on November 1st, 2016, to Governor Bill Lee's office on Capitol Hill in Nashville, Tennessee, just to raise awareness about some of the core issues with barriers in the state of Tennessee and our lack of fidelity to the instruction manuals and our DOT design drawings, because I've looked at hundreds of guardrail fatal incidents across the state of Tennessee, and virtually 100% of them have at least one major installation error. Recently, I was investigating a fatal incident down in Polk County, Tennessee. The individual hit the barrier, went into the water and drowned. And this, based on social media history, this was a veteran with a history of PTSD. They say it's 22. I think it's probably closer to 17, but somewhere between 17 and 22 of our veterans will end their life every single day. And this was one of those incidents. And they said, well, the act was intentional. Well, so is every other crash test in the history of guardrail crash testing. It was an intentional act. The problem is that the rail lapping was wrong. There was an 8-inch wall in front of the guardrail. The rail height was about 24 inches. The rail had missing splice bolts. I counted at least 12 major installation errors within the vicinity of that guardrail. And so, yes, it might have been an intentional act, but the DOT aided and abetted in this intentional act by making sure that the person that hit that guardrail would be successful in the attempt against her life. And so I'm not absolving her of her agency in that decision, but the state DOT is not without fault in that incident. People that intentionally hit guardrails should get a headache or be very disappointed in the outcome, but they shouldn't be successful. I mean, when you hit within testing parameters, you should not be successful. And they made sure with their faulty installation that she would be successful. It wasn't intentional, but It might as well have been with how bad the install was. So we're going to look at this one last guardrail installation. I'll point out a few basic things. We're at the trailing end. So approach traffic is coming from that direction. It's a divided highway with no possibility. Well, let me take that back. With a very low probability of an end-on hit, energy absorbing hit from this direction. For that reason, you'll just see there's a boxing glove and no energy absorbing capacity. But this anchor is very old and obsolete, and it's too high, and that could snag a vehicle. Now, this should be taut, and you can see I can move that. That's way too loose. But that's designed to provide tension in the rail and keep it in tension so that it won't rupture. That's a Porsche. Anyways, so that's a vital piece. Every guardrail needs a good ending. Every guardrail needs a good good middle. And this one, it's a NCHRP rail with on-post splicing. And what that means is you can see the seam has been made. Ideally, this entire run would be one continuous seam of guardrail. That'd be just way too heavy. And repairs would be very, very expensive. So we splice together 25-foot panels. You can splice together 12.5-foot panels. They should not be cutting panels. That happens way too often. But with the older rail, the splices were placed on the posts. And you can see, so this post here, that bolt has to pull through two rails. And that's not just double, that's significantly stronger than, say, here, where it's going to get to pull it through one rail. You're not just, you're doubling the thickness, but the energy required to pull it through that double splice is really, really significant. So what's happened with modern guardrail is they shifted everything 3 feet this way. 3 feet this way. So that splice, rather than being on the post now, is here. They added, this is older rail, but now there's holes, punched holes, every 3 feet rather than it's 3 inches rather than every 6 and 6.3. So it's 1.5. And so all of our holes are single rail versus a double splice on the post. And what that does is it ensures that every single splice or every single hole releases in the same way. So like this one, it's going to release in the same way. This one is going to release in the same way. This one is going to release oh gosh, I got into fire ants. I was just leaning in fire ants. Goodness. Oh gosh, I just got into fire ants. Somehow I think I got them mostly off. Anyway. Don't anyone hit like on that. But anyway, so our splices, I gotta go back here. There it was. I was kneeling in those stupid fire ants. So we're going through 2 rails, then 1, then 1, then 1, then 2. So we get a spike in force there. Then 1, then 1, then 1, and then we get a spike. So by shifting the guardrail 3 feet, you no longer get that spike. You get certainty throughout the whole rail. The other thing they did was raise the rail about 3 inches so that it would better, don't have them on me, but man, I just got hit with some fire ants. By raising the rail 3 inches and moving the rail, shifting it 3 feet, it's one of the most significant improvements in barriers in the history of barriers. Here's something. The vehicles are coming this way, and this rail overlaps the next rail down. That's so that you don't get cheese gratered by that there. Going that way, it's catching my hand. Going this way, that's smooth. So that's a vital thing. This is a block out. That's designed to prevent the wheel of the car from interacting with that steel post. We'll come down here. This is a NCHRP 350 era product. This terminal is On post splicing, so it's a 350 before. I'd have to pull the design drawings. It could be there's a bunch of iterations. But anyways, the end terminal, that's the end anchor, actually ends right here, 50 feet downstream of that impact head. So this is all part of the end terminal. So it's vital that every part be identical. I do like this. This is a good feature, is this 25-foot rail. I like the certainty of placing the splice further downstream because it creates a micro event within our event. By putting that as far down, the sedan, a crash with a sedan performs, I believe, better the longer we have certainty in our rail. Need to look at that. So it uses a hollow post at post number 2. This is the older system. It's been tapped a little bit. And so they have universal holes. I talked about this earlier in the stream, and you can see here, universal holes. So this can be installed at 27.5 or 31 inches. This is a 27-inch install. So it's vital that the 27 inches holes be used there and the 27-inch holes be used there. Use the 27 here and say the 31 there. Now you've put that at an angle, kind of final destination that has the potential to go up over the vehicle and into the windshield on a smaller sedan. Let me make sure I'm not in any fire ants this time around. For some reason, because this is a universal post, can be used in a 27 or 31 inch install on the right, or 27, 31-inch install on the left side. Some folks want to use a 10-inch bolt that locks it in place. I call this the LeBron James post, and the idea is that it's supposed to flop over, kind of like LeBron. When you lock it in place, bad things can happen. You can see here, it's got these tabs. This is actually connected. It's 2 pieces. You can't pound on this part. You pound on this. You don't pound on these plates. Most of the errors involving this really safe system happen right here. You eliminate the errors on post number 2 with this system. You eliminate most of the problems with this extraordinarily safe system. It's got some special punched holes which dampen the impact, because you have an object at rest and it's instantly mobilized to 70 miles an hour potentially, and you want to dampen that a little bit. That's why you have barely attached there. All this will be shed. These are just hanging. These aren't bolted down. Those are shoulder bolts. I don't know if you can see that, but those are shoulder bolts. All of that will be shed. That post goes over. Now we get further into the event after the impact head has been mobilized. We no longer need the dampening in the rail or these weakened posts. I would like to see weakened posts throughout the whole system, but that would be a performance standard I would like to see incorporated into all systems, because it was something in the first systems that came out, but then we started degrading our systems to save money. But everyone did it. And it would take a performance standard to be written. But this overall is a very good system. Let's take a look at the bearing plate. It's generally oriented properly. You need 5 inches on the top, 3 on the bottom. I don't see. This is not the best way to install that, but it is what it is. That's hollow. I've gotten into some bees before. I'll tell you what, I've gotten into snakes and hornets and bees, and I get into fire ants way too often. That was no fun kneeling in those down there. Oh man, I want to feel that one tomorrow. I'm all bit up and kneeling in those. You can see here, that big boxy impact just captures the vehicle. One of the things, you see this on the ET2000, you'll see this on the SKT family of products, you'll see it on the Fleet, and you'll see it on the Esket. This flange that goes all the way around captures, bites the vehicle in a crash, and really leads to much better performance, I believe, because you want, once that head is embedded into the vehicle after it's been captured, You want it to remain captured. You don't want it releasing from the vehicle. So like that there, people don't realize that little tiny bar makes a huge difference in the performance of these devices. Overall, this rail that we saw is in pretty decent condition. I have some concerns with the trailing end. That rail height, I think if I had a yardstick, is a little bit lower. It's built up over the years. You see they've done some paving. I think it's probably too low, and you can raise these. One of the things that you can see is, now these are provided by, again, this is part of the system. If we come down here to this the standard Tennessee post, you can see they have 4 holes. So when you do a paving project, you can actually take this apart and just move the whole block up to here or here. So you could go up another a bit to raise your rail when you pave your road and you raise the height of your road. It doesn't look like that was done here. Anyways, I need to end this live stream because I'm running out of battery and I don't want to have to walk 8 miles back that way. I want to call for a ride. So I'm going to end the live stream, but thank you so much for joining me this morning. Again, it's in preparation for a walk across the state of Tennessee. It'll be about a 200-mile walk where I kind of just do the same thing. Sometimes I'll be live streaming here on YouTube, maybe on TikTok. If I figure out how to do, like, integrate it and live stream on multiple platforms, I might do that. I want to get a Starlink phone so I have sure connectivity. But it's just going to hopefully push for some legislative and executive action related to the state of our barriers in Tennessee. If we can set the standard in Tennessee, that can be emulated around the United States, around Canada, and around the world. You set the bar in one place, and then you get others to meet that standard too. It's Steve the Guardrail Guy. Thanks for joining me this morning. Y'all have a great day. And let me just turn this around. I can't quite see the Smoky Mountains, but you do see some of beautiful rural East Tennessee. Just end with this. Thank you so much for joining me. Y'all have a great day.